It's that time of year again. Lists, lists, lists. We love them. They're all over YouTube. The best 10 of this, the worst 20 of that. Here's mine. This is the worst movies that I have seen in 2022. Just to give you an idea of how I've approached this, this is the movies I have enjoyed the least. Some of these films I have given scores that I felt were representative of maybe some talent on screen or behind the camera, but I just didn't enjoy them for whatever reason. Some of these are just bad. But I will say there's no absolute offensively bad movies this year. There's some movies that I think were dull, which is maybe sometimes even worse, but nothing which I thought was an absolute, just utter crap. There was none of them, I would say. So even the worst movies on this list, I feel, were still, if anything, just kind of like bland or dull rather than offensively bad. So let's get on with it. So we'll start from number 10, and again, this is just my personal opinion of movies that I just didn't really love, didn't really enjoy for whatever reason. And number 10 is Surrogators, a movie which is super cheap, and you know, it's obviously kind of doing the creature on the loose movie. This one is kind of a comedy movie, but the joke is just too thin, and you can't really watch it and just laugh at it because it's not particularly funny. I didn't think, outside of a couple of maybe okay jokes, but it's just like silly CGI kind of creature. You know, it's a movie that was very, very low budget, and obviously they're kind of playing to that kind of schlocky B-movie side, but it just wasn't very particularly enjoyable. I didn't really kind of like go along with the joke with this one. It was just a little bit of a chore to sit through, to be honest with you. Number 9 is Ash and Dust, which is more of a thriller than a horror, kind of a crime thriller, to be honest with you. And this has got a couple of other names. It's been kind of renamed a few times. But it was a real slog to get through this one. It was an overly kind of convoluted plot, and I think this movie had that kind of like that artistic sensibilities where it wanted to be sort of like somewhat elevated, shall we say, but in doing so, I felt it was very hard to kind of really get to grips with the story. There's not a lot of dialogue in this movie, and it was just a real kind of bore, to be honest with you, this one. Again, this one I feel there's some artistic merit in it, but it was just so dull for me. It was honestly quite painful to get through this one. Number 8 is Among the Living, and I feel kind of bad for this one, to be honest with you, because I feel like the filmmakers had the best of intentions whilst making this kind of low budget zombie movie, but it's just dull. I mean, it's kind of, it has some interesting ideas, and I think the zombie makeup was okay, but it's just these people kind of running around in the woods with no real direction on the story, I didn't think. I thought that the story was so weak here. It just seemed like it was somewhat made up on the spot. I don't know, I'm not saying that was the case, it just seemed like it. And ultimately was dull, boring, and kind of, again, a little bit of a chore to sit through in some ways. Number 7 is the highest profile movie on this list, and I judge a higher budget movie in a different way than maybe I judge a low budget movie, but this was Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, I'm a huge Marvel fan, but I'll call out a turkey when there is one, and this was a terrible movie, to be honest with you. It just seemed like the worst impulses from director-writer Taika Waititi, just kind of like having fun at the kind of the audience's expense, because I just made this like bath bag of a superhero movie that I will never watch again. Yes, I bought it on DVD. I bought the steelbook because, you know, I'm a sucker and a completionist for the Marvel stuff. I hope they don't do too many editions to that, because I kind of don't really want to spend loads of money on it, but there you go. But yeah, I didn't love Love and Thunder, and yeah, I'll never watch that again. Next up was a relatively recent review I did, and this one is called Shadow Master. And this tried to be a mixture of an action, martial arts kind of action movie with kind of horror elements and stylistic kind of choices, a bit like the kind of The Crow, kind of like a goth vibe. And it's actually by one of my favourite B-movie directors, Perry Reginald Teo, whose horror movies I've really enjoyed, but this one was not good. Unfortunately here, it's let down by some truly awful storytelling. The fight scenes are good in a kind of a vacuum. If you could sort of watch a clip of a fight scene, it looks good, most of them. But it's horrible characters, terrible acting, horrible kind of like costuming that's kind of like, oh, look at me, I'm steampunk, I'm cool, or whatever. It's crappy. So there you go. Next up we have Beneath the Surface, which is a Scott Jeffrey movie. I could have just filled this list with Scott Jeffrey movies, but I didn't want to do that. But I picked one because I felt like this was, you know, a low-budget shark movie that was clearly trying to rip off another movie, which I won't name, but there you go. And I just thought it was a boring, poor attempt at ripping off another property that just wasn't interesting and really kind of wasted the concept, to be honest with you. And this one, yeah, not particularly good acting, not well thought out at all, that one. Next up we have A Town Full of Ghosts, which is a found footage movie. And interestingly, with this particular movie, the director, writer, I think, literally had found this kind of like Old West kind of, you know, town, which was a kind of an attraction. It wasn't a real one, it was just kind of like, you know, sets or kind of like, you know, some type of theme park. And I thought, oh great, I'll make a movie here and just kind of write a story because I want to film in this location. And that story was terrible. There was no scares. Man, I had fun reviewing this one. This was a legitimately bad film, to be honest with you. The director has gone on to do some better stuff, I would say, but yeah, this one was not good. Next up was number 3 is Exorcist Vengeance. And do you know what? This movie was one of the early ones that I saw in the year, and it feels like I watched this years ago because it's terrible. But it isn't, it was a 2022 movie. Number 2, we have a found footage movie called The Death of April, and yeah, this one was again, it was a low budget kind of found footage movie where you pretty much have a girl just vlogging at the camera for the majority of the kind of the screen time, and that's kind of it. There's very little else to do with this movie, and it's as boring as that sounds. And there's also some real lapses of logic here. I think some of the acting wasn't too bad, I will say that. But the actual story is weak. The payoff is weak. And overall, it is not worth your time, I would say. But number 1, and again, I kind of feel a little bit bad about this one because I know the filmmaker was kind of trying here, but it's Demons at Dawn, and it's just this like boring, repetitive demon movie where we have this kind of ex-criminal essentially talking to one character, getting told to go to another a location to see another character. He goes to see that character, and they're told to go to another location to meet another character, where he then goes to that location, and he gets told to go to another location. And then we have some crappy guys with masks. Yep, that's kind of where I am. I kind of understand where they were going with it, but you know, the execution of this one was quite poor, and it's kind of as interesting as my description sounded. So there you go. That is my least favourite movies of the year. They might not be necessarily the ones that I've critically panned the most, but they're the ones that to me stood out as the kind of the most dull, the most uninteresting, the ones I would least want to kind of watch again. Did you like any of these movies, or have you seen any of them, and do you agree with my assessments on them? I'll be curious to know. Please do leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.